every now and then you get your ass kicked. And over the last decade, I've had my ass kicked in this music industry many times. I've learned lots of lessons, and I've made a list here of things I'm going to show you. But before we dive into this, I'm going to give you a 5-day challenge for you, your studio career as an audio engineer. Absolute juice. It's completely free, straight to your email inbox, and enjoy. Now, let's actually dive into this. The first lesson I learned was straight away ads. Okay, take a look at this fun ad I used to run. Okay, this was back in 2016 and Facebook ads was super cheap. This was my lead magnet, and it was, oh my God, a 10-point pre-master checklist, and all these people are going to finish their mixes and send them to me to work. And I thought I was so smart. It was so cheap to run this ad. So cheap. The fact is, I was able to get clients for $10. So we're talking $50 to $100 a master or project for $10. It was like mind-blowing. Like that ROI doesn't exist on social media ads anymore, especially for service-based industries. Was that a good thing or a good lesson to learn? I'm going to explain to you. No, it was the worst thing I ever did. You're probably thinking, Nick, you would have been printing money, and for short periods of time, it was doing really well. But it was the worst thing I ever did in terms of music career industry, trying to develop myself back then, because who the hell in the music industry, think about this, who the hell in the music industry is scrolling on Facebook that is a serious person in the music industry going, oh wow, I'm going to purchase mastering off some random ad on Facebook from somebody I don't know. Now, I got many amazing clients from them, but none of them were repeat clients. They never came back because they were just impulse buyers who were typically hobbyists that were doing projects for themselves that needed a little bit of help, and the target market was there, and there's a market there to service those people. But for me in my career, I had different aspirations. I wanted to work with industry pros and producers and people in big studios and labels, and that was completely away from the reality. So my lesson from this is ads aren't where the industry lives. For me, growing my career, I had to look outside of the ad sphere of typical digital marketing at the time in order to grow my career. And for me, what that looked like was reaching out to local producers, local engineers, connecting with them, learning, making sure they were aware of me, and then growing my work through that. The second lesson is about content. And I'm gonna, before I teach you this lesson, show you the very first video I made on this YouTube channel back in 2015.
Hey guys, Nicholas De Lorenzo here from Panorama Mixing and Mastering, Melbourne, Australia. Welcome to the YouTube channel, and this is a sound piece of advice. Rely on your ear and not the gear. Now, I'm saying this simply because on forums, blogs and Facebook...
Anyway, it was awkward, it was contrived, it was an addition, ultimately for many years, it was an addition to what I was doing in the studio. So I was working in the studio and then trying to make YouTube work for clicks, likes, and metric gratification. And it never worked. It never grew because what I was trying to do is, well, number one, it was really taxing time-wise because I had to do something separate to what I was doing in the studio. And number two, it wasn't genuine. People could see through this. Fast forward to 2022, okay? So this is 2015, first video, and then nothing. Something happened here, okay? Something happened here in the middle of 2022. What do you think it was? It was the fact that I started making the YouTube channel an extension of my work, not an addition. Instead of trying to contrive or think of ideas that were going to get clicks or likes or appeal to people's wants and needs, I just did what I was doing at the studio and started showing things I was doing, and people connected with it. Granted, it wasn't everybody started connecting with it, but there was no facade there. There was no bullshit. And when it comes to the content side, a lot of people stress, and this is like some lesson I've learned over time, is don't stress about the content. Show yourself. And that's as simple as it is. You're going to appeal to the people who connect directly with you. And the beauty of this is, especially when it comes to content, your personality, your genuine, what you're doing in the studio and showcasing to the world will draw in the right audience naturally, will draw in the potential for you to grow your career through those connections naturally, because it'll attract people that are like-minded, people that value you, and what is important to you is typically what is important to them because that's what keeps them watching. Lesson number 4, managing money. Things right now are super expensive, and pre-COVID, everything felt much easier than what it does now. Back then, I had a system, and I've continued to use that system till now, and I'm going to give it to you straight away. What we're going to do is, you need to set up multiple accounts. You need to have a transaction account for everything going in and out of your career, business-wise. Okay, if the studio has something going in or has to pay something going out, you have one transaction account. You have another account, which is for your equity, and I'll explain that in a second. You have another account that is for your retirement, or 401k or superannuation, depending where you live in the world. And you have another account which is for your withholding tax. At the end of every week, you're going to do the following things. And this is what I do every single week. For all my account billable goes into the transaction. So everybody pays, all my clients pay into their transaction account. I take X percentage for my tax compliance. So whatever my nominal tax rate is, let's pretend it's 20%. I wish it was 20% because I'd be a very happy man, but let's just pretend that's 20%. For my retirement fund, 15%. We call it superannuation here in Australia. I think compliance is like 11%. You take 15% for that. For equity. Now, equity is a term I use. I like to think that the business has its own stash of money separate to my own personal finances. And I like to have 5% of all the revenue of the studio be available to buy whatever I want. So if I want to get new camera gear, if I want to get a new mic, when I went to America, I got a gimbal, there's a little fun there. So 5% goes to there, and then a nominal amount pays you as an employee to your business. Now, that started out for me as $50 a week. 11 years ago, I used to pay myself $50 a week. The rest of the money I would not touch. It would be the studios. Now, granted, I was living at home with my parents, $50 a week. I had a part-time job. That was covering a lot of things. All good. But eventually, this had to be a viable full-time thing. So that $50 a week became $100, and then $100 became $150, and $200, and so on and so forth. But ultimately, what happened is me, as an employee of my business, I was a liability. And I made sure that liability grew with the business to the point where I am now an employee. I pay myself a certain fixed amount every week. So what you want to do is set up those 4 accounts, have your own personal accounts separate to everything, and at the end of every week, whatever your revenue is, split those percentages up and pay everything out. Simple. What else is there? Oh, this is the fun one. We're going to have fun here. This one is all about networking. And I could start with warm outreach and things I've done which have been so successful with warm outreach. And I am going to do that, but not first. I'm going to go cold outreach. All right. Cold outreach. I'm going to teach you a few things. You have to have a genuine interest in whoever you're reaching out to. You have to be super passionate about who that other person on the other line is. You should know everything about them, be in love with what they're doing, and have a genuine point of connection. Okay? I'm going to show you an email. So, you might know the label Future Classic. They've got a studio out in Elysian Valley. They're actually originally Australian label for Flume. And they've done some really cool records. And the first time I went out to LA in 2020, here was my pitch to them because I had seen some of their stuff. You might have recognized my name. I'm a studio owner for Melbourne, going to LA. You guys came into my spotlight over the Dropbox collaboration you had in LA, and I wanted to make time to connect with fellow Aussies to both learn and share. So it's like I'd seen your stuff, I'd been following, and I want to connect, learn, and share. I'm going to miss Melbourne coffee on this trip, so maybe we could tee up a chat over coffee at your recommendation where we can connect and learn more about one another. So it's like, I know this much about you, and we're both Melburnians. There's like a mutual, not Melburnians, both Australians, mutual point of thing. And I'm not going to find coffee in LA, so can you help me? And anyway, I won't give you the rest of the email thread, but guess what happened? We ended up catching up. I went to the studios. I visited there back in 2020, and that was awesome. Another one was Jimmy Wyatt. Now, Jimmy Wyatt, he runs Ginger Studios. Originally, Ginger Studios was in Cremone, and it was, in my opinion, the most beautiful studio in Melbourne. Okay, he's got another amazing, beautiful studio in Melbourne, in Paran. But this was a space where he had the Wu-Tang Clan, Justin Bieber, Flume, amazing artists come through. And I really saw it as a North Star, and I wanted to connect with him. And since I've got a beautiful connection with this gentleman, and it's been a pleasure, but it all started from wanting to learn and that curiosity and that mutual respect of his space. And I sent out the similar email where I'm like, hey, what did I say in this? You mightn't recognize my name. I've seen your name pop up a few times in discussions across my feed in socials. I noticed you're in Melbourne. If you're free to Skype or coffee, can we connect? I'd be really curious to hear your thoughts on the music industry working as a fellow audio professional and simply connect. That's all I wanted to do, and that's all we did. I remember that time I met him. Visited him, he had his dog there, he had his newborn daughter there, who was, I remember chewing on chicken bones, and we just chatted, just generally about life, the studio. We built a great connection. We've worked on many records since, but the reason why we connected wasn't to go there and get work and work on records. It was to learn and understand who is this person who runs this amazing facility and has a great career. I want to learn. A lot of people, when they're cold outreaching, want not to learn, but they want fucking work. And I think it's a bit slimy to connect with somebody and be like, hey, I don't know you, but you're going to sleep on the first date? It's slimy as shit. And I don't like that. It happens to me now and I don't like it. I give time where and when I can to people who have taken an interest, are well-researched. It doesn't feel generic and just blanketed. Oh, I'm just going to connect with you to try and get some fucking money. I think most of the time it feels like. And yeah, when it comes to cold outreach, know who you're reaching out to, have a genuine meaning to going out there, a goal for everybody to enjoy. We're going to talk about the music industry because we love it. Let's connect and do that. Beautiful. Or we have this friend and you worked on this record and I really loved it. I'd love to talk to you about it. Cool. Let's just catch up and enjoy it, and you get far in that sense. So that's the cold outreach side of emails. And actually back in 2018, just as a little search result here, I spent 4 or 5 months from late 2017 to mid 2018 doing this, picking very specific people, and majority of these people ended up catching up with who I really valued and enjoyed and connected with them. And it was probably the best thing I did. I'm really glad I did that. And I probably should do that again. There are a lot of people who I want to connect with, which I think I should. I should do another run like this and share the results with you because I really want to connect with amazing people. We're going to go to warm outreach. What did that look for me? Warm outreach is when you have a mutual connection, a mutual experience. You might have worked with somebody, you want to connect with them more. Pre-2020, about 30% of my business was international. Now it's about 50 to 60% is all international work I do. NAMM was coming up. And in the Facebook groups, a lot of people were connecting and saying, who's going to NAMM 2020, 2020? And I saw the names of so many producers and mixers who I had been mastering for saying they're going to be there. And these are producers and songwriters and engineers from London, from Europe, from Africa, from all, I'm not joking, literally all over the world, from the East Coast, up in New York, coming to LA. And I'm like, well, all these people I work with, I should go there and see them all. And that's what I did in 2020. That was the first time I went to LA. I went back in 22 and then again this year, and I'll go back next year. My version of networking there was to thank and show gratitude and, just be like, hey, it's been such a pleasure working with you. I want to show face. I want to be around this for you and connect with you. And the beauty of this is in doing so, it allowed me to go from somebody who just lived inside an email for these people to being somebody who was physically there to show support and connect genuinely with them. And I'd rather be the person who genuinely connects with others rather than the person that sits in an email. Now, granted, I have to put this through a different lens for warm outreach. There's a super luxurious position I take to be able to go, hey, let's go overseas. 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, however many times I want. This won't look the same for everybody because it just doesn't. And that's not a bad thing. That's just a different thing. That said, locally, there are people you've worked with. And I used to do this locally. There are a few, probably a dozen producers and engineers who I'm close with here in Melbourne, and I've got to do this again. I really got to do this again. Pre-COVID, come Christmas time, I would invite them all out for drinks. I'd say, hey, it's been a great year. We're all going out. All right? I'll cover the tab. Let's go out, catch some drinks. I want you to meet so-and-so. I want all my friends, all the people we've been working on records together with to come together and meet one another and chat shop. And that was my small way of doing that before I started traveling overseas. So you don't have to travel overseas to nurture your warm network, to nurture warm, people around you that you've connected with a couple of times or done some records or work for. Take them in, pull them all in, say, hey, we're going to catch up at the studio and hang, and we're all going to have a fun time. And that's just something that works really, really well. So we've talked about networking, and that's a really good tool. That one, just get everybody out to the bar, have some drinks, connect, and then do it again, and then do it again. And I got to do another one. I'm going to do one this year for all the Melburnians. I need to. I should. I shouldn't be so lazy about it. So this next one, so these final two pertain a little bit to networking, but it's industry connections. A lot of people think your credits matter. Credits are important to a certain degree. They a little stamp that say, you worked on this, you're a part of this, you contributed. Okay, that's a validation. But the real validation happens with what people who worked on that record with you say about you. And reputation matters. And this is why. Lesson number 8. It is more stronger having people say something nice about you than you having accolades up the wazoo. Because not going to say names, but there are people with beautiful accolades that other people might not have the nicest things to say about. And likewise, there are people with no accolades that are behind the scenes and people absolutely love them and can't wait to work with them again. So, which one would you rather be? In the limelight, people think, or in the shadows, not necessarily in the shadows, but without those accolades, but people think highly of you. And I will say this, reputation matters, because this goes into the next lesson, and the next lesson is your future boss. This is going to be me being very vulnerable right now. Like most humans, I sometimes can judge books by their cover. And this is something that I'm working on. But often it is the case that the most inconspicuous people, the most humble people, the most nicest people, quietest people are making the biggest frickin' moves. And this goes to the length of, I've met many people who early on in their careers were starting out, and I'm always trying to be as nice as I can to everybody. I'm never a dick to people. I'm just nice, okay? And these people end up doing great things and becoming my future boss because they end up hiring me on their future records. And that just goes to show you should not dismiss anybody. And in the same sense, there are a lot of people I've met who, after the fact, I realize, holy shit, I'm working with this person who worked on this record that did this, this, and this. Wow. Amazing. Ultimately, what I'm trying to say there is, you never know who you're speaking with. You never know the potential for what they could achieve. If the janitor at a hotel or the busboy at a restaurant, they could be the next Grammy Award-winning engineer or producer that you might be working alongside of. And it's really important, doesn't matter who you engage with in this industry, you treat them with the utmost respect. Absolutely. I don't have any direct anecdotes or screenshots to show you here of this, other than the fact that I can tell you 10 years ago, 11 years ago, I was making coffee. I love making coffee still, but I was just a barista. Not just a barista, I was a really good barista. But I was pouring milk in a cup and serving it to people. And actually, you know what? This is something that actually happened. Okay, I was working at the airport, I made coffee, and there was this person who kept coming in through every week, touring, okay? They were a guitarist. They ran a studio in Sydney. Luke Bertos was his name. And making coffee, and he treated me with such amazing respect, such kindness. And eventually we found an interest in one another. I'm like, so what are you doing touring? And he's like, I play in this band. Oh, cool. What do you do? Oh, well, I'm doing this, but I'm studying audio and I'm building a studio. And he's like, oh, cool. Connect with me. Cool. I ended up working with a bunch of records on him. Who's to know? Anyway, I hope some of these lessons helped you. If they didn't, I hope you enjoyed just listening to them. If you got questions, I hope you leave those questions below. If none of these interests you, but you ended up watching 20-something minutes of a video, I'm sorry for wasting your time, I guess. Or maybe you should be blamed for wasting 20 minutes on something you didn't really enjoy. But nonetheless, thanks for watching this. Subscribe, join the newsletter. There's a challenge below. And until next time, take care.